Okay, today I think we should kick off.
That's perfect, thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. My name is Sue Ush. I'm an account manager at Best, and I'm joined today by my colleague Danet Vosloo, our balance sheet recon specialist consultant. And we are joined today by Jeudy Rojas from Bacardi to share how his iconic 160-year-old brand boosted GL reconciliations by 40% without adding any headcount by using Best's balance sheet reconciliation module. And you'll hear how Bacardi rolled this out across 30 countries with 250 users and over 4,500 monthly reconciliations. You'll learn the lessons they learned along the way and hopefully some tips about how you can do the same for your own SAP environment. So if you're a finance professional, an SAP user, or a transformation leader looking to streamline your reconciliations, improve compliance, and scale efficiently, you're in the right place. We'll dedicate some time at the end of the session to address any questions, so please post them in the chat. So let's get started. Danet, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Sue, and thanks, Jeudy, for joining us today. We implemented the Best Balance Sheet Recons module at Bacardi with Bacardi in 2021. It was a very unique implementation as it was done during COVID, and we all know all the challenges related to that. And the whole implementation was done 100% remotely with Best based in Johannesburg, and then with the key Bacardi project team based in Costa Rica. But it was a very successful implementation, and we've only, Bacardi's been a magnificent client, or a great client of ours. Jeudy, can I please ask you just to introduce Bacardi, yourself, and also the role that you play at Bacardi?
Sure. Thank you very much, Danet. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Jeudy Arias, as you mentioned. I am part of an organization called Bacardi Enterprise Services. We are basically the shared service center organization for Bacardi. Specifically, I am currently leading an organization called Financial and Analytics Services that we provide finance and accounting services to all the Bacardi companies. Our main office is based here in Costa Rica, as you mentioned, but we also have other small offices of Bacardi Enterprise Services in Barcelona, Poland, China, and India. And we have representatives in other locations around the world.
Okay, it is definitely a global enterprise. To start with, maybe our first question is: can you provide us with an overview of the month-end reconciliation process at Bacardi using Best, including how many countries, users, and even the quantity of recons that this covers?
Yes, sure, absolutely. Well, the balance sheet reconciliation process is a key deliverable of our month-end close. We currently start reconciling the accounts after our working day 3 or on working day 3, once we close the books in SAP. We are currently using Best tool for all the accounts, and for all the companies in SAP. We have the fortune, and I would say the luxury, of managing all of our entities in SAP, or 99% of our entities in SAP, so that allow us to leverage the uses of Best. Right now, we are reconciling around 4,500 accounts on a monthly basis for about 90 companies, specifically 88 companies. And we have more than 160 users. All of those users are based in more than 20 countries around the world. Most of our reconciliations are performed by what we call BES users, the Bacardi Enterprise Services users. However, there are a few accounts that are still managed by local finance contacts. For example, local finance managers, or taxes organizations in the different countries that we have entities. So right now our process is pretty standard. BES has enabled us to perform that standardization, but I am pretty sure that we will talk more about it.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks. We had a case study with Bacardi in 2022, and I'd like to revisit some of the key feedback that that you gave us during that session, and see how 3 years on, potentially, if that feedback may have evolved or changed at all. The first point being that Bacardi moved from a risk-based reconciliation approach to reconciling all the balance sheet recons with BES. Is this still the case? And can you provide some input on that?
Yes, sure. Before implementing BES, we didn't have any tool, so we basically relied on Microsoft Excel templates and multiple macros to perform the reconciliation process. So we didn't have enough capacity to reconcile all the accounts on a monthly basis. That's why we use something that we call risk-based approach. And in this, to use this risk-based approach, we basically had to perform multiple calculations to define which accounts needs to be reconciled on that specific month. So actually, we have one person performing that process, and I remember that she invested like 6 hours running all the calculations required to determine which accounts should be reconciled on that specific month. So it was a very manual process, and for sure very prone to human errors. Once we implemented BES, we were able to get rid of all of those calculations and get rid of the risk-based approach and start reconciling all the accounts on a monthly basis with the same resources, with the same capacity. Definitely with better quality for sure, because we were able to eliminate all the Excel templates, all the macros. I remember that we used to store the reconciliations in Microsoft SharePoint, which was very confusing because we had different folders for each country and for each entity. So you can imagine that we ended with dozens of folders in the SharePoint, which was definitely very, very messy.
Yeah. Okay, great, thanks. And if somebody perhaps deletes something off those shared folders by accident, it's a problem.
Yes, definitely. Actually, it was a very prone to human errors because sometimes the accountants forgot to upload the reconciliations in the folders. So I remember that sometimes I had to review on a specific reconciliation, and I used to spend a lot of time just trying to identify where the reconciliation was.
Yes.
So it was a huge waste of time, right, of all our users.
Yeah. Okay, and then you also noted previously that one of the best benefits of BES is that the control and oversight of the reconciliation provided through real-time management reporting. With a few more years using BES, is this still your opinion that the reporting is one of the best attributes?
Yes, absolutely. We implemented something called Control Tower. That is basically a couple of users that are monitoring the monthly process, the monthly reconciliation process. So during the reconciliation window, they are able to monitor what is the status of the reconciliations, if they have been approved in the level 1 or level 2. A couple of days before the deadline, they start sending the reminders to the users that have not completed the reconciliation. So this helps us to, first of all, understand what is the status of the reconciliation process on a monthly basis, monitor that status, and follow up with the users that have not completed the reconciliations to ensure that at the end of the cycle, all the reconciliations are done on time and with the quality requested. Again, in the previous process, that was impossible because we relied on a SharePoint list to track the status of all the reconciliations, but unfortunately, that SharePoint list was not accurate. For example, someone could just say that they complete the reconciliation, but that was not the case. But with BESS, we can ensure that it is tracked, the tracking is 100% accurate, and we can monitor the completion of the process for all the entities at the same time. And the best part is that that monitoring process is very, very simple, right? The accountant in the control tower can simply run a quick report, and she can identify how many reconciliations are pending. So we can run the process very smoothly.
Yeah. And also identify in which areas those recons are that very easily that's not been done yet, in which company codes, etc.
Yes, we can easily see what is the company code, what is the what we call what team is in charge of that reconciliation. So it's very easy to follow up with the specific users and the accountants in charge of that reconciliation.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other benefits that are worth noting? I know you've mentioned a few, but is there anything specific?
For sure. In terms of implementing BESS, change the monthly process of all the accountants, because in the past, the accountants used to spend a lot of time dealing with the reconciliations in Excel, which involves running multiple macros. I remember that we had more than 20 macros because we used to have different macros depending on the account type. So for example, we needed a specific macro to run a cash account reconciliation, other macro for intercompany accounts. So when we implemented BESS, we were able to eliminate all of those macros, all the maintenance that it requires, and all the complexity that it involves dealing with macros. And we were able to implement the standard templates in this tool, which allow us to ensure that accountants focus on the content of the reconciliations rather than the template and the macro, and they avoid facing multiple issues with the macros. And for example, if there is an upgrade in the Microsoft Office or something like that, it is very interesting because now the accountants can focus just on the content of the reconciliation, understand what is in the accounts, identifying if there is any risks that we should raise, rather than dealing with all of those transactional work. Actually, interesting because just after you scheduled this webinar a couple of weeks ago, I had a very interesting conversation with one accountant that we recently rehired. He worked with us like before we implemented BESS. So he was used to the old process, and just like 3 months ago, he was rehired in the company. And he was mentioning that he was surprised due to the change. He remembered that he used to spend a lot of hours just dealing with the tool, with the exec tool and all the templates. And now the reconciliation process is pretty straightforward, especially if the accounts are clean. If they don't have many items, the reconciliations process can become a quick exercise. And for all those accounts that has important quantity of items, they can focus on the content again of the reconciliation instead of dealing with all the technical issues that may imply managing multiple spreadsheets and macros. So he was very, very happy, and it was great to see that someone was that experienced both items.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm okay. Sorry, I lost you there for a few minutes, but it's okay. I'm sure it was maybe just me. But Yeah, thanks so much for all that positive feedback. Is there a specific base report that you find most useful? And can you give some details as how these reports are used at Bacardi and who uses it? Is it also the end users or just management or both?
We use all the reports for sure in BEST. For example, the control tower accountants use on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, sorry, all the reports. But something that I love specifically and I use a lot is the audit trail report. And I really love it because on a monthly basis, we need to review the results, the monthly results with our different stakeholders. For example, I have monthly meetings with the finance directors of all the companies around the world. And in those meetings, we review the issues for sure that we have in the balance of the reconciliation process. So with the audit trail, I can quickly review who performed the reconciliation and who approved the reconciliation, and also review the comments that they added during the reconciliation process. Yeah. So we classify the accounts in 3 status: green, yellow, and red. And in those meetings, we usually report the accounts that are categorized as yellow and red. And with the audit trail report, I can easily review why those accounts were categorized or rated as yellow and red. With the comments that they are able to add, I can easily understand what is going on with that account, and I can provide those explanations to the finance directors. So I really love the audit trail report, and I think that is very friendly to use. Something that used to take me a couple of hours now takes me less than 10 minutes, which is great because I perform those accounts or those reviews for all the regions around the world. So imagine simplifying that exercise means a lot to me, honestly. That's the point. Yeah. But for sure, we also use all the other reports. Right now, we download all the status of the accounts, and we upload the final results in a Power BI dashboard. Will help us a lot to visualize better the final status, the monthly results. However, my team use all the reports right now. Personally, I use a lot the audit trail report on a monthly basis, especially once the monthly cycle is finished. So it is something that I love, and I think that it is a very important tool for management purposes, and also for audit purposes, because our auditors can easily review again who performed the account, the reconciliation, who approved that reconciliation, and when those were reconciled and approved.
Okay, yeah. When we last spoke, you mentioned that the introduction of BEST allowed Bacardi to complete 40% more reconciliations per month. You have noted that 4,500 approximately every month, but it's still, you're still completing high volumes of recons per month, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right now, we perform an average of 4,500 accounts on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Some accounts are categorized or some reconciliations are performed on a quarterly basis due to the nature of the account. Okay. But most of the accounts are reconciled on a monthly basis. For sure, including all the accounts that have a monthly activity like cash accounting, inventory, intercompany, accounts receivables, accounts payables, and so on. So something important to mention is that we were able to reconcile more accounts with the same capacity, and after we implemented BEST, we have been able to start centralizing more the reconciliation process. So let me give you an example. In the past, the accounts receivables were reconciled by the order to cash team. But when we implemented BEST, we realized that there was an opportunity to transfer those reconciliations to the general accounting team, who were the experts on accounts reconciliations. So they are able to perform the process faster with the use of BEST, with better quality, because the skill set is different, and they are, let's say, specialized on account reconciliation. So they are able to perform the process on a more efficient way. Again, without adding any capacity or any accountant to the general accounting team, just reinvesting all the time and all the capacity that has been freed up by implementing BEST.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay, and I think we've probably touched on some of these, but the key functional areas within BEST that allowed you to complete so many more reconciliations. I think, you know, you just spoke about it, where, you know, your cash team were able to do more recons because it was done in a faster manner and also with more accuracy. Is there anything else that you want to note on that?
Regarding the functional areas, we are
Yes.
currently performing reconciliations for all the accounts, for all the balance sheet accounts. So inventory accounts, and the inventory accounts are performed very quickly due to the BEST functionalities, because, you know, BEST allow you to easily compare the GL balance versus the subledger. So that allows us to easily identify if there is any reconciliation item. Similar with assets, the fixed assets reconciliations are a very good example. All the reconciliations for fixed asset accounts are executed just by a couple of people in our organization, which means a lot, because there are many fixed asset accounts, but given all the functionalities and all the features that we have in the tool, we are able to reconcile all of those accounts with just a couple of people, right? And we also make sure to leverage all the functionalities in BEST. So, for example, the auto reconciliation feature for all the accounts that meet certain criteria, right, that we define at the beginning of the implementation. So we are also able to reconcile around 500 accounts on a monthly basis that are basically auto-reconciled. So let's say that is a zero-touch reconciliation, because based on the parameters that we define.
Yeah. So the auto approvals. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna just share my screen for a moment, just with some stats. Just if somebody could just, you can see it, right, Jeudy?
I can see it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So at Bacardi, we're speaking about 4,500 reconciliations a month. These stats are from April, May, and June of 2025. So, you know, just to put it into perspective, it's 13,277 reconciliations that were done over these 3 months. That's a large volume of recons. You know, that averages at this for these 3 months is 4,426, but, you know, we're rounding it off to just 4.5, and as you all can see that, you know, it was 4,000 in April and May, closer to 4,000, and then in June was 5,000. Was June your financial year end?
Sorry, Danet, I lost you for a moment.
No. Was June the Bacardi's financial year end?
No, it's the quarter end. Quarter end.
Quarter end. Okay, no, it's just because there was a significant up in recons for June. So as we note here, this is across 88 company codes. I know you mentioned about 90 just now, but if we look at these stats, it was 88 company codes, and approximately 121 users or that's working on BEST, or is it a little bit more that's doing these 13,000 recons?
Yes, right now we have 160 users involved, including
Okay.
the approvers and the
Yeah.
reconcilers for
Yes.
what we call approval level 1, approval level 2. However, most of the reconciliations are performed by, I would say, 80 users, because
Yeah.
the other 80 users have maybe 1 or 2 accounts, because those are the what we call local users, the finance
Okay.
users that are still based in the different countries that we operate. However, we are running an effort to centralize those reconciliations and move them to the shared service center organization. So we are expecting to see a reduction in the quantity of users, but for sure maintain the same quantity of reconciliations.
Okay.
Again, given that our users have become experts using BEST, they have been able to free up capacity to absorb more reconciliations. So we are actually working on that transition right now. Yeah, and the expectation is to ensure that the expert accountants focus on the reconciliation process. Something that I didn't mention is that most of our reconciliations are done by working day 10. So by working day 10, most of the reconciliations are completed. That is our official
Okay.
deadline.
Yes.
So it's basically an exercise that is done in the first half of the month.
Yeah.
In the,
Sorry,
I mean,
that's a very good point to note, because that makes it even more impressive, these stats, is that it's been done in within 10 days after month-end close.
yes, exactly. For our reporting calendar, it's very important that we finish the balance sheet reconciliation process by working day 11. So that's why, again, with the users of the BEST tool, we have been able to complete that. And we prioritize the accounts depending on the risk. For example, the cash accounts or the bank accounts are reconciled in the first 2-3 days, and
Okay.
then depending on the other type of accounts, we complete the rest of the reconciliations. But at the end of working day 11, all the accounts should be reconciled, and that's allow us to continue the rest of the management report.
Okay. So if we just have a look at this, sorry, you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, we
Just confirming. This is a little bit of a different look. Jeudy mentioned this auto approval now, so we can see that Bacardi is able to automatically approve 26% of this 13,000 recons that are being done. Just to give a little bit context to our audience, that auto approvals is built within based on business rules. So business can determine what that rule set is. I think if I remember correctly at Bacardi, it is, and most of our customers would align with this, is that if the account isn't got a null balance and there also was no movement in the account, that we can automatically approve it, and that just also frees up time from the user's perspective, that they don't have to have a look at a recon and actually manually go and approve it if there's no balance and no transactions. So that is a big benefit. I do see that at level 2 there's less automatic approvals. I suppose that the level 2 approvers are probably quite in the habit of just having a look at the accounts and approving them, and also perhaps that your level 1 approvers are more used to the functionality to run that automatic approval. But over and above that, how we've also differentiated these figures here, so we've identified it, and we've broken the grand total, that's 13,000 grand total approvals, into green, red, and yellow. Now, you did mention this earlier. It is the, how Bacardi identifies if there's an issue on the accounts. So we can see, I don't have a percentage here, but I'm pretty sure that this 13,300 will be probably more than 90% or 95% of the reconciliations we are saying there's currently no issues on. And then that red and yellow, which you've noted from the audit trail, you pick up on those accounts based on that status that's been assigned, and then you can identify what the issue is on that recon based on the comment that's been added to that approval, correct?
Yes, definitely. Well, for sure, those are consolidated numbers during a quarter, but one of the benefits by implementing BEST is that we can easily identify which reconciliations are in yellow and red status. For sure, the account owners can start following up start the resolution of those issues. So
yes.
One of our main KPIs is that, well, right now our KPI for green accounts is that we should have more than 98.5 of accounts categorized as green, and ensure that all the yellow and red accounts are resolved as soon as possible. So BEST also allow us to identify issues and work on them to ensure a prompt resolution.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Jeudy. I'm just gonna just stop sharing that screen. So has BEST impacted the accuracy and reliability of the reconciliation status reporting?
Sure. First of all, because it is an automatic reporting right now based on the reconciliation that is performed in SAP, right? In the past, we have this human intervention, right, to update the status tracking in the SharePoint list, which it was not 100% accurate always. Right now, we ensure that the reporting is completely accurate based on the real status of the account and the status that was updated in the tool. So definitely it has helped us to ensure that our final view of the results are 100% accurate. Also, it is worth to mention that we have been able to standardize how we do every reconciliation depending on the account type, right? Because each account type has their templates that are previously implemented in the BEST tool. So we can ensure that all the accountants will perform for example, an intercompany reconciliation the same way, right?
Yeah.
In the past, we have Excel templates, so the accountants were able to change their templates, which was not always the most optimal solution. But
yeah. Okay, thanks. And do you feel that the implementation of BEST has had a positive impact on your internal and even external audits?
Oh, for sure, yeah, that is a great difference. Right now, well, in the past, the accountants, the auditors ask us for a reconciliation, right? And we had to start looking in the reconciliations from previous months in SharePoints, in multiple folders. So it was an exercise that took a lot of time, right? Right now, we have two options. We can easily identify the reconciliation in the tool and just download it for the usage of the auditors, or even better, that is my favorite option, is that we can grant access to the auditors the tool, so they can review by themselves the reconciliation.
Yeah.
With an easy training that we provide them, they can perform the audit testing without our intervention, which is great. This has helped us a lot, especially during the annual audit process, because we usually work with the same audit firm. So we have been able to grant it access to our SAP platform, and they can perform the testings required for the audit.
Okay.
So it's a completely different story.
Yeah. Okay, and with these multiple countries and locations involved in your month-end process, do you feel the implementation of BEST has helped to standardize your reconciliation process globally? I know you mentioned standardization just now, but if you can just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. The standardization is critical because when we implemented this, right, we did an important effort to define, okay, what is the best template or the best format to use for each reconciliation, depending on the account type. And that's the same template that we have used for all the companies in our tool. We have ensured that all the reconciliations are done on a standard way, and that also has helped us to facilitate the training of the users, right? Because when we have new users, we already have some pre-recorded trainings that they can watch by themselves, so they can get familiar with the tool. That way, the training of new users is very fast and very smooth. Obviously, there are some follow-up sessions with previous or with more experienced accountants, but that initial training is very easy compared to the past. Sorry, Danet, I cannot hear you.
Okay. Jeudy, you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just can you, one or two more questions? Hi, Sue?
Yes, you're going in and out of audibility.
Okay, but me as well. Oh.
Yeah, you particularly.
Okay, sorry about that. So whilst BEST provides a standard and fully functioning reconciliation solution, we are always open to accommodating unique customer requirements. Can you note a couple of the unique Bacardi requirements that BEST were able to accommodate, and what impact this has made on the Bacardi process?
Yes, I remember that when we were analyzing the implementation of this solution, we really like it, but due to our balance sheet reconciliation policy, we need to report all the accounts that are in green, yellow, and red status. And at the beginning, that option was not available in BEST tool. And I remember that we have a conversation with you, and you were very flexible and able to accommodate that needs for us, because it was important, very important for us, and critical for our reporting purposes. Because as I mentioned, on a monthly basis, we report all the accounts that are yellow and red. So I think that was one of the main changes that or improvements that you were able to implement for us, and has helped us a lot. Yeah, especially that one is very important for us.
Okay, and now looking back after using BEST for 4 years, I think it's 4 years. I'm trying to, if we implemented in 21, it is 4 years now. Is there anything else that you feel is worth discussing in this session, or that we haven't asked you or touched on, and that you think would be beneficial to the audience in the webinar today?
Yes, well, a couple of things. As I mentioned, yeah, we have been using BEST for 4 years now, and so right now we are doing, let's say, a last cycle of centralization, due to all the expertise that we have got using the tool. So we are trying to centralize all those accounts that are still performed by the local finance organizations. Actually, this year is one of our priorities. There are not many, but still we want to ensure that 100% of the accounts are done centrally by the shared services organization. And also in preparation for our journey to migrate to S/4HANA, that is something that we are also starting in Bacardi. We just this year we just launched the program or the journey to migrate to S/4HANA in a couple of years, and so definitely BEST will help us to migrate to S/4HANA. The balance sheet reconciliation is, I would say, one process that I don't need to worry about, because I already know that BEST is available in S4. The solution will be pretty similar to what my accountants are already using. So I am really looking forward to migrating with you to S4HANA.
Yeah. And I mean, what I can maybe add to that is that with BEST and via Fiori, we have our GL main menu and some of our BEST transactions available in the Fiori tiles. And then we also have a dashboard that illustrates some key recon attributes, such as the approval progress and status update. That's all represented with graphical and user-friendly interfaces. So yeah, we can't wait to show you all of that when you migrate. Thanks so much, Jeudy. We really appreciate your time. I'm just wanting to check in with Sue or with Chris if there's any specific questions that have come up.
Yes, thanks, Danet, and thanks, Jeudy. That was very informative. So yeah, we do have some questions. I think we just have enough time to perhaps ask them. So if that's okay. And the first one's from Donovan. Thanks, Donovan. Jeudy, this is a question to you. Just I think you had mentioned it earlier, but it was just around your staff complement that are currently performing these 4,500 recons every month. I think you might have mentioned about 120 users that are performing these recons. Is that right?
Right now we have 160 users that are involved in the process. However, some users just have 1 or 2 accounts. Most of I would say 80% of the reconciliations are done by 80 users in the shared service center organization. That's the difference. The thing is that we still have a couple of accounts that maybe are performed by the tax professional in a specific country, and we are trying to centralize those accounts, as I mentioned. But most of the work is done by the accountants in the shared service center organization, and it is about 80 people.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. The second question, so this is a bit longer. So here, can you elaborate on whether you apply set thresholds to determine what should be substantiated? If so, could you provide examples of accounts where these thresholds are applied? And if an account balance falls below the threshold, do you automatically consider the balance reconciled? So I guess it's just understanding how you might manage thresholds and differences and rating your recons.
That sounds very similar to the risk-based approach that we used to apply in the past when we didn't have BEST. Again, due to the limited capacity that we have to perform multiple calculations depending on the account type. But we eliminate all of those things when we move to BEST. Right now we are reconciling all the accounts despite of the movement. However, as we mentioned before, we are leveraging the auto-approval functionality for those accounts that have 0 balance and don't have movement, and that in our case is around 500 accounts on a monthly basis. So we basically eliminate the work or the time that we were investing on reviewing accounts that didn't have any movement at all. We are focusing on all the accounts that have movement. So yeah, we eliminate the risk-based approach, but we replace it with the auto-approval functionality in BEST. And the good part about the auto-approval functionality is that you can customize the criteria, right? So this allows us to change the functionality based on our needs.
And I actually remember you had a very well documented balance sheet reconciliation process with specific thresholds and materiality for the specific accounts. And if I recall, we actually implemented as part of the recon status. Obviously, you have the red, yellow, and green that you can now monitor, but we also had like a value at risk that we created. So there could actually be a captured value for specific recons if there was a feeling that maybe a specific item or value on the recon was at risk, and you can actually capture that at the time of approving.
Yes, yes, for sure. That is still part of the reconciliation process. Right now, well, as you mentioned, we have the BSR policy that define the criteria for each account type, and as part of the criteria, we have some thresholds to define if the account is green, yellow, or red. We are still using that, and that's the final criteria that the accountants use to define the status of the account, if it is again green, yellow, or red. But that is just to score the account individually once you finish the reconciliation process.
And thanks. One last question, and I think actually, Danet, this is probably more for you and I that we can answer. It was just, could we clarify whether the templates are provided by BEST or designed internally and stored within the tool for users to access and utilize? And maybe, I've been looking at this a bit longer, Danet, if it's okay, I'll take a first stab at it. And I guess, one of the, and it's often something we discuss in our sales demos, is perhaps not focusing too much on templates, because the beauty of the online reconciliation is that it's very flexible. So we have a wealth of information that's displayed on the recon itself, and different information is pertinent to the type of recon that you're looking at. So we have the normal display variant concept where we can save a whole host of different views for different recons, and we can actually assign those as default variants for different recon types. So I guess the answer is yes, we can create a whole lot of different templates, but that can often are predefined by us at cutover, so like a bank layout and a fixed asset layout. But it's also very easy for users themselves to create their own layouts depending on what they want to look at. So very easy if you want to categorize it by reason code or by document type, to age it and then create those layouts within BEST itself. And Jeudy, you could also, I mean, if I haven't
yeah, no, I remember
that, yeah.
when we were implementing the solution, some of my team members work with you. I think it was specifically with you, Danet, to define the best views for each account type. Obviously, depending on the account type, they were able to define those views, and we have been using the same views since the beginning of the implementation. So definitely you did a very good job. And I remember that, yeah, it was a collaborative effort to define what was required for each account type based on our needs. But yeah, I remember that the tool is very flexible, and there are a lot of columns that you can add to those views.
Yes, and I guess just a little bit more, which actually answers another question that's just come up, I guess, is that with combined with how you're looking at information, is that it's also how we put the recon together. So maybe master data, like at fixed assets, we put all the cost accounts together and balance it at a net book value. What approval strategy we assign. So the approval strategy will say, well, right, well, can you approve it when the month is open, for instance? Must there be supporting documentation? And maybe there's a comparable balance that you have to add. So I think, depending on the approval strategy, the master data, and then obviously how we look at the reconciliation, it kind of combines into like an overall reconciliation objective. And Elena, I'm just looking at your question around, what do we mean by balance sheet recon? We talk balance sheet recons, but it could be expenses as well. Any account in SAP, you can run a reconciliation within BEST and approve it. And so all of those examples you've got, accrued expenses, creditors, debtors, banks, is all applicable. The approval strategy itself might govern whether you need supporting documentation and what checks will be built in. So we can actually add a lot of control that's system driven from the approval strategy itself, and that helps to enforce certain actions that users have to comply with before they can approve the reconciliation. Sure, sorry guys, thanks to jump in. That's the last of the questions I think we have gone over. So Sue, I'll I guess hand back to you if there's anything else, and then we can wrap up.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for answering those. Danet, did you have one or two last words before I just close off?
No, I'm good, but I just want to
No.
thanks Jeudy again for his time. And
Wait.
yeah, sorry.
Are you all good? Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Jeudy, it was great to hear you validating all the best products benefits. As a salesperson, I know the benefits, but when I hear a customer raving about them and having utilized them and seeing the results, it's really affirming, which is awesome. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Danet. Thank you, for, Chris, as well. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. And if you would like to learn more, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to set up a quick call or a demonstration. And have a good evening. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.